The storm of glowing dust swirled wildly in the alien sky. The small human ship, Aurora 7, shook like a leaf in a hurricane. Inside, a tired human engineer named Thomas gripped the flight stick, fighting to keep the ship steady. The navigation screen blinked red warnings, every system failing one by one. "Come on, stay with me," he whispered to the machine. But the ship had already given up. With a final burst of sparks, Aurora 7 crashed through a sea of silver light and slammed into the surface of an unknown world. The impact threw Thomas against his seat, and then there was only silence. When he opened his eyes again, he saw soft blue mist floating around him. His ship lay broken, half sunk into glowing sand. The air shimmered gently, almost musical in its hum. Thomas coughed and stepped out, boots pressing into the shining dust. "Where am I?" he murmured. The landscape stretched wide and strange. Trees of crystal rose high, their leaves made of light. Rivers sparkled like liquid glass. The air smelled like clean rain. But what truly caught his eye were the figures walking toward him. They weren't human. Tall and slender, their skin glowed faintly, like moonlight trapped in living forms. Their hair looked like threads of silver, and their eyes shone softly without pupils. Each one wore flowing robes that rippled like water. They surrounded him in silence, their faces curious yet calm. Thomas raised his hands slowly. Hi?" The aliens exchanged looks. One of them, smaller than the rest, stepped forward. She looked like a young girl, her glow gentler, her movements curious and full of life. She tilted her head as she studied him. "You are strange," she said in a sweet, echoing voice. "Not shiny like us." The others murmured in surprise at her directness, but the girl only smiled brightly. "Maybe my mother will like you," she added cheerfully. "She can't see how ugly you are." The crowd gasped softly. Some covered their mouths, others whispered in shock. But Thomas simply blinked, then laughed quietly. "Well," he said, still smiling, "that's one way to say hello." The little alien's glowing cheeks brightened. "I did not mean rude. My mother cannot see. She is blind but kind. She is our queen." Her words caught Tomas's interest. "Your mother. A queen?" The girl nodded proudly. "Yes, Queen Velen of Varelia. You fell near her kingdom. She will want to meet you." The taller aliens whispered again. One of them, clearly a guard, stepped forward and bowed lightly to Thomas. "Human traveler, you stand on the land of Queen Velen. We will bring you to her. Do not fear." Tomas exhaled, both nervous and relieved. "Sure, I'll come peacefully. I mean no harm." As they guided him toward their city, he noticed how the world seemed alive with light. The ground pulsed faintly beneath his feet, glowing with each step. Far ahead on the horizon, a great palace rose like a mountain of glass and stars. The journey took hours, but it felt dreamlike. The alien city, Varelian, was unlike anything he had seen before. Buildings floated gently above the ground, connected by bridges of energy. The streets were smooth and luminous, filled with tall beings moving gracefully. Everything hummed softly, as if the air itself sang. The little alien girl walked beside Thomas, talking the entire way. "My name is Nara," she said proudly. "I am 10 light cycles old." "That's nice," Thomas replied, unsure how to measure a light cycle. "I'm Thomas, just Thomas," she giggled. "Just Thomas?" "That is a short name. Easy to say. I like it," he smiled. "Thank you, Nara." She pointed at his clothing. "Why are you so dull?" "You wear no color?" Thomas chuckled softly. "It's the uniform. We humans don't glow like you do." "Then you are dark inside?" she asked, curious rather than rude. "Not dark," he said gently. "Just different. Our light is inside the heart, not the skin." Nara tilted her head again, thinking deeply about that. "Inside light? I never saw that before." Thomas looked around at the glowing city. "Maybe your people never needed to." When they reached the palace, Thomas stopped in awe. The walls shimmered like moving glass. Beams of soft gold light floated through arches carved from crystal. The palace glowed brighter than 100 suns, yet it did not burn the eyes. Guards bowed as Nara entered. They looked surprised to see a human walking beside her. One whispered, "A being from the stars. How rare." Inside, the palace was quiet and warm. Streams of soft light flowed like water through the halls. Thomas followed Nara into a great chamber where a throne stood upon a circle of shining stone. Upon that throne sat Queen Velen. She was taller than anyone Thomas had seen, her hair a curtain of pale light, her eyes closed but peaceful. Around her, small orbs of radiance floated, each glowing softly like fireflies. She did not turn as they entered, yet her voice carried easily. "Nara," she said gently, "who have you brought before me?" Nara ran forward and bowed low. "Mother, this is Thomas." He fell from the sky. His ship broke, but he is nice. He is not shiny like us, but I like him. The queen smiled faintly. "Fell from the sky?" She turned her head slightly. "Human?" Thomas stepped forward and bowed awkwardly. "Yes, your majesty. I'm Thomas, engineer of a supply ship. I mean no harm. My ship crashed nearby. I only seek help to repair it." Queen Valen lifted a hand and the orbs of light drifted closer to Thomas, circling him slowly. They gave off a gentle hum as if studying him. "I cannot see you," she said softly, "but I can feel your energy. It is different. Not bright, not dim. Strong." "I'll take that as a compliment," Thomas said with a polite smile. The queen tilted her head slightly as if listening closer. "You speak gently, yet your voice carries weight. Tell me, human Thomas, why travel so far from your home?" "I'm an engineer," he replied. "We deliver supplies and repair stations across the outer colonies. Sometimes that means traveling through unknown sectors. This time, I guess, I flew too far." A soft laugh escaped her lips. "And the stars decided to drop you upon my doorstep." Nara giggled beside her mother. "He is funny, too." The queen's expression warmed. "You bring joy, child. That is rare in these quiet halls." Thomas shifted, unsure how to respond. "I'm honored, your majesty. If I may ask, your people, your city, it's beautiful. But everything seems powered by light. Is it natural?" "Yes," said Valen. "We are born of light. Our world breathes it. The crystals you see, the air you walk through, all of it holds living light. But it fades slowly. Our palace engines, once strong, now weaken. We cannot repair them." Her tone grew soft with sadness. Thomas looked thoughtful. "Maybe I can help. I'm good with machines. If you let me see the systems, I might fix them." There was silence for a moment. Then Valen smiled faintly. "You would help strangers?" He nodded. "You helped me first." Nara clapped her glowing hands. "See, mother? He is kind." Queen Valen seemed to consider his words carefully. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. You may stay in our city and work on the palace engines. In return, you shall have our protection." Thomas bowed again. "Thank you, your majesty. I won't let you down." "Then welcome to Virelia, Thomas of Earth," she said warmly. Later that evening, Thomas was given a chamber overlooking the shining city. The walls hummed softly with light, and every object seemed alive. He sat by the window, staring out at the endless glow. He thought about his ship, damaged beyond easy repair, and about the queen who ruled this place without sight. There was something graceful and strong about her voice. Even without seeing her face, he could tell she carried great wisdom. As he sat there lost in thought, Nara suddenly appeared at his door, glowing faintly like a lantern. "Thomas," she whispered loudly. "Are you sleeping?" He chuckled. "Not yet. What's wrong?" "Nothing," she said, stepping in. "I just wanted to ask, does everyone on your world glow inside?" He smiled. "Not everyone. But the good ones try." Nara grinned. "Then maybe my mother will like you even more. She can't see how ugly you are, but she will see your inside light." Thomas laughed again. "You really don't stop saying that, do you?" "It is true," she said proudly. "Mother says the heart is brighter than any skin. She will feel your light, Thomas, you will see." Thomas looked out at the city again, his smile fading into quiet wonder. For the first time since his crash, he felt something other than fear. He felt hope. Maybe, just maybe, this strange world wasn't a prison. Maybe it was a beginning. The next morning on Virelia began with soft light spreading across the sky like liquid gold. Thomas woke to the gentle hum of glowing air. For a moment, he forgot he was on another world. The walls of his chamber shimmered faintly, alive with slow-moving colors that seemed to breathe. He rubbed his eyes, stretched, and looked outside. The city sparkled like 1,000 suns resting on glass waves. Alien beings moved gracefully along shining bridges, their steps leaving ripples of light behind them. Thomas smiled weakly. "Still not a dream," he whispered to himself. A knock sounded at the door, light, rhythmic, and curious. "Thomas, are you awake?" It was Nara, her cheerful voice unmistakable. "Yes, come in," Thomas said. The door slid open without a sound. Nara entered with a glowing bowl floating beside her. Steam rose from it, and the smell was sweet and fresh like fruit mixed with sunlight. Breakfast, she said proudly. Mother says humans must eat, so I told the kitchen to make you something soft and not glowing. Thomas laughed. Thank you. I appreciate the non-glowing part. He took a spoonful. The taste was gentle, slightly sweet and warm. This is good, Nara, she smiled, pleased. Good. You eat, and then we go to the palace engines. Mother said you may begin today. Already? Yes, she said she trusts your hands. Thomas looked at her with mild surprise. She trusts me that quickly? She says your voice sounds honest, Nara replied with a little shrug. Mother always knows when someone speaks truth. Tomas finished his meal and followed Nara through the glowing hallways. The air buzzed faintly, like the world itself was alive and listening. When they reached the lower halls of the palace, Thomas found himself in a wide chamber filled with machinery unlike anything he had seen before. Crystals shaped like hearts pulsed slowly in metal frames. Streams of blue light flowed between them like veins. This is the heart of the palace, said Nara proudly. But the light here is fading. That is why the towers above grow dim. Thomas stepped closer to one of the crystal cores. It's beautiful, he murmured, but unstable. The energy flow is uneven. He set down his repair case and opened it. Metal tools gleamed faintly in the reflected glow. Nara watched him curiously. You really can fix this? I can try, Thomas said. Machines are machines. No matter what world they come from, they all listen to patience. As Thomas worked, the palace guards watched quietly from a distance. They didn't trust him yet, though the queen had given her word. To them, humans were strange, dull creatures without light or beauty. But as they watched Thomas move, calm, careful, steady, they began to notice the glow of concentration in his eyes. He spent hours checking the connectors, mapping the energy patterns and adjusting the crystal cores. Nara stayed by his side, handing him tools and asking endless questions. What is that? It's a stabilizer. What does it do? It keeps the energy steady. Why do you keep touching the wires? Because they talk to me when something's wrong. Nara blinked in amazement. They talk to you? Can I hear them? Thomas chuckled softly. Not with your ears. You have to listen with your hands. Nara placed her small glowing hands on the machine, copying him. Like this? Yes, feel the vibration? Her eyes widened. It's like a heartbeat. That's right. Every machine has one. For the first time, Nara began to see the human not as dull or strange, but as someone who could bring new light to her world. Hours later, Queen Valen entered the chamber. She moved gracefully, guided by two glowing attendants. Though her eyes were still closed, she seemed to sense everything. The hum of the machines, the pulse of energy, even Thomas's quiet breathing. How goes the repair, Thomas of Earth? She asked softly. Thomas bowed slightly. Better than expected, Your Majesty. Your palace engines are remarkable. They're alive in their own way, but they were out of rhythm. I'm rebalancing the core flow. Out of rhythm, she repeated with faint amusement. You speak of machines as if they have hearts. Thomas smiled. Maybe they do in their own way. They keep your world alive. Queen Velen tilted her head slightly. May I feel what you are doing? Of course, Thomas said, surprised but respectful. He gently guided her hand toward one of the crystal panels. Her fingers touched its smooth surface, and she smiled faintly. It feels warm, she whispered, like sunlight caught in stone. Exactly, Thomas said softly. But the warmth fades when the balance is broken. Once I fix this last link, the energy will flow evenly again. Her hand brushed his as she explored the surface. Her fingers paused over the rough scars on his knuckles, marks of years spent fixing, building, and surviving. You have strong hands, she said quietly. Hands that create. Thomas looked away modestly. They're just tools like the rest of me. No, Valen said gently. Tools do not carry compassion. You do. Nara giggled softly nearby. Mother, Thomas says machines talk to him. Queen Velen smiled. Do they, Thomas? He chuckled. Sometimes. Not in words, but in feeling. When something's wrong, I can tell. Then perhaps, said Velen, you are not so different from me. I cannot see, but I feel the world in ways others do not. Thomas hesitated, then said quietly, Maybe that's why I understand your machines. A long silence followed. Not awkward, but peaceful. The humming of the engines grew steady again, filling the room with a pleasant rhythm. By evening, Tomas had finished his repairs. The palace began to glow brighter than before, its light now soft and steady like a living heart restored. The guards who had doubted him looked at one another in quiet surprise. Even they could not deny the human skill. Queen Valen turned her head toward the light-filled ceiling. "The air feels alive again," she said with a faint smile. Thomas wiped his hands and nodded. "The system is balanced now. It should hold for a long time. You have done more than repair engines," Valen said. "You have restored peace to our palace." Nara clapped happily. "I told you, Mother." "He's good. Maybe he can fix everything." Velen chuckled softly. "Careful, my child. We must not give him too much to fix," Thomas laughed. "One thing at a time." Later that night, the Queen invited Thomas to dine in the Hall of Light. It was a grand room filled with glowing orbs that floated like stars. The meal consisted of shimmering fruits and gentle-tasting liquids that glowed faintly when poured. Thomas sat across from the Queen as Nara sat beside her mother, still grinning proudly. "Do humans not fear what they do not understand?" Velen asked as they ate. "We do," Thomas admitted, "but we also learn. Curiosity and fear often walk together for us." Valen smiled faintly. "Your words sound wise." "Not wise," he said. "Just honest." There was quiet between them for a while. The sound of distant music echoed through the hall, played on instruments made of crystal strings. "You have seen our world," said Valen finally. "What do you think of it?" "It's beautiful," Thomas said truthfully. "But lonely too. Everything glows, yet I feel something missing." "What is missing?" "Maybe laughter," he said. "Or stories. Or songs that come from hearts, not light." Velen tilted her head slightly. "On Viralia, emotion is private. We shine on the outside, but we hide our hearts within. Your kind shows feelings freely, yes?" Thomas smiled faintly. "Sometimes too freely." "Then perhaps that is your inner light," Valen said softly. "You share it without fear." Nara leaned toward Thomas. "See? Mother understands you already." Valen reached out her hand gently. "May I touch your face, Thomas of Earth?" He hesitated only a second before nodding. "Of course." Her fingertips brushed his cheek, tracing the roughness of his skin, the faint scar by his jaw. Her touch was light but searching. "I cannot see your face," she murmured. "But your warmth tells me more than eyes ever could." Thomas sat still, unsure what to say. The moment was quiet, calm and full of meaning. Nara smiled brightly. "Mother, I told you. He is not ugly inside." Velen chuckled softly, still touching Thomas's face. "Indeed, Nara, his light is warm." Thomas, a little embarrassed, smiled. "You're both too kind." When the meal ended, Thomas stood by the balcony overlooking the glowing city. The Queen joined him, guided by Nara's small hand. "The stars above your world," she asked quietly, "do they shine as brightly as ours?" "They do," he said. "But they don't sing like yours do." Valen smiled. "Perhaps it is not the stars that sing, Thomas. Perhaps it is the heart that listens differently." He looked at her, the blind queen who ruled with grace and calm, and felt a quiet respect rise in him. "I hope someday," he said softly, "you'll see them again." She turned her blind eyes toward the sky. "Perhaps I already do in my own way." Nara yawned and leaned against her mother. "I'm sleepy," she said with a small smile. "Mother, will Thomas stay forever?" Velen smiled faintly. "Forever is a long time, my child." Thomas looked at both of them and said gently, "Let's start with tomorrow." Days turned into weeks on the shining planet of Viralia. Thomas became a familiar face among the glowing people. He worked each day repairing old systems and teaching the Virelians how to maintain them. The once fading towers now shimmered stronger than ever. Everywhere he went, aliens whispered his name, some with admiration, others with doubt. To them, he was a strange creature without light on his skin, yet full of light in his deeds. Queen Valen trusted him more with each passing day. She often invited him to the gardens of the palace to speak. Those gardens were unlike any Thomas had ever seen, filled with flowers that hummed gently and trees that glowed in rhythm with the wind. One quiet evening, Thomas sat with Queen Valen under a crystal canopy. Nara played nearby, chasing floating lights that danced through the air. "I never thought I'd find peace again," Thomas said softly. "Back on Earth, life is fast and loud. Here, everything feels alive." Velen smiled gently. "You bring peace to my halls, Thomas of Earth. Even the air hums brighter when you walk through." He chuckled lightly. I think that's just your imagination, Your Majesty. Perhaps, she said, or perhaps I sense what my eyes cannot. There was a moment of silence between them. The Queen tilted her head slightly toward him. Tell me, do you wish to return home? Thomas looked at the glowing sky. I did, but now, I'm not sure. This world feels like a second home. Velen smiled faintly. Then maybe the stars led you here for a reason. At that moment, Nara skipped over, smiling brightly. Mother, the light feast is tomorrow. Everyone will come to the palace. Velen nodded. Yes, child. It is the day when Viralia glows brightest, and we thank the heavens for another year of harmony. Nara turned to Thomas. You must come too. You helped make the light strong again. You are part of our glow now, Thomas laughed. I'd be honored, little one. But as they spoke, in the distance, hidden behind pillars of light, a pair of glowing eyes watched silently. It was Silor, one of the Queen's most trusted nobles, and one who hated the presence of the human. The next day, the Feast of Radiance began. The whole city shone brighter than ever before. Ribbons of light danced across the sky. Towers hummed with soft songs, and the air was filled with the scent of sweet fruit and energy. Inside the palace, hundreds of nobles gathered in the grand hall. Their glowing forms shimmered in colors of silver, gold, and blue. They bowed as Queen Valen entered, led by Nara and followed by Thomas. The moment Thomas stepped into the hall, whispers spread quickly. Why is he here? The dull-skinned one stands beside the Queen? Has she forgotten our ways? Thomas heard the murmurs but stayed calm. He bowed respectfully beside the Queen, his expression gentle and steady. Queen Valen spoke clearly, her voice echoing through the hall. People of Viralia, today we celebrate the Feast of Radiance. Light fills our hearts once again, and harmony lives among us. Let all who dwell in this world, born of light or from beyond, be welcome here. Her words silenced the hall for a moment. Then Nara, standing proudly beside her mother, pointed toward Thomas and said loudly with a smile, Mother smiles more now because of him. He should marry her. The hall fell into stunned silence. Thomas nearly dropped his glass. Queen Valen froze, her sightless eyes turning slightly toward her daughter. Nara, she said softly, trying to hide a laugh. That is not something to say before so many. But it's true, Nara said innocently. You talk to him every night and you laugh now. He makes your heart glow, Mother. A few nobles gasped, others whispered angrily. Sailor's expression turned dark as shadow. Thomas stammered, trying to calm the moment. Nara, that's very kind of you, but... Velen raised her hand gently. Peace, everyone. The child speaks with pure heart. Let us not take her words as more than what they are. Innocence. But the hall was no longer calm. The whispers grew sharper, full of jealousy and anger. How dare a human stand beside our queen? His dull skin does not belong among light-born people. Her blindness has made her too kind. Sealer stepped forward from the crowd, bowing low but speaking with a cold tone. Your Majesty, we honor your kindness. But this human brings unease. The people do not understand him. They fear what is not of light. Valen's voice stayed calm. Fear is born from ignorance, Lord Sealor. Thomas has done no harm. He has restored our palace, our power, our peace. Perhaps, Sealor said smoothly, but some fear that he may wish to claim more than your trust. Thomas looked up at the noble, his jaw tightening slightly. I claim nothing, Lord Sealor. I serve the Queen in this world with respect. That's all? Sealor smiled faintly. Of course, human. But sometimes respect turns to ambition. Valen's tone grew colder. Enough. Tonight is a night of joy, not suspicion. Sealor bowed again, hiding his glare. As you command, my queen. Despite the tension, the feast continued. Music filled the air, and light beasts, creatures made of floating color, drifted across the hall. Dancers moved like flowing energy, and food made of crystal fruit shimmered on silver tables. Thomas stayed near the queen, quietly observing the beauty of it all. Nara danced among the guests, laughing without worry. For a brief moment, peace returned. Then suddenly, a bright flash burst from one of the palace balconies. A sharp crack echoed through the hall. Screams filled the air as energy flared dangerously near the upper dome. The generators, someone shouted. They're overloading. Without thinking, Thomas ran toward the explosion point. Guards tried to stop him, but the queen's voice rang out, let him go. He reached the balcony where glowing circuits sparked wildly, the air humming with danger. A young Virelian child lay trapped beneath a fallen beam of crystal. Thomas rushed forward, ignoring the heat burning his hands. He lifted the heavy beam with a groan and pulled the child to safety. Energy burst around them, cutting his arm, but he didn't stop until the system stabilized. The lights flickered once, then steadied again. The hall below erupted in murmurs as Thomas carried the trembling child back into the crowd. Queen Velen rose from her throne. Her voice rang out, calm but powerful. You see now, the human brings no darkness, only courage. He saves our children without fear. The hall grew silent. Even Sealor could not hide his frustration. Nara ran forward, hugging Thomas's leg with glowing tears in her eyes. I told you, he is good. Thomas smiled tiredly. Just doing what anyone should. The crowd began to bow their heads one by one. Their glow softened, a sign of respect among their kind. For the first time, Thomas felt accepted, not as an outsider, but as one of them. Later that night, after the feast ended and the city calmed, Thomas sat alone in the garden. His hands were wrapped in soft, healing light. He looked at the sky filled with gentle colors. Queen Velen approached quietly. You saved a child today, she said softly. I only did what was right, Thomas replied. You act as though bravery is ordinary, she said with a faint smile. But to me it is rare. She reached out her hand. May I? He hesitated, then placed his hand in hers. Her touch was warm and gentle. I can feel your scars, she said softly. They tell stories. Each one is a memory of something you fought for. Thomas smiled slightly. They're just marks. Proof that I survived. Survival, she whispered, is its own kind of beauty. They sat in silence for a while. Nara, who had been listening from behind a tree, peeked out with a wide grin. Mother, she whispered loudly, you are smiling again. Velen laughed softly. You see too much, my child. Thomas chuckled. She's not wrong. Velen stood and turned toward him. Thomas of Earth, I thank you, not only for saving my people, but for reminding me what warmth feels like. He bowed respectfully. I should be the one thanking you for giving me a place in your world. As they stood beneath the glowing sky, the wind carried the sound of singing from distant towers. For a brief, quiet moment, it felt as if the entire world was breathing in peace. But far in the shadows, Sealor watched from a high balcony. His eyes glowed with anger. He wins their hearts, he whispered bitterly. Soon, even the queen herself. He turned toward the dark machinery behind him, a console of power lines Thomas had repaired days ago. His hands moved quickly, setting a hidden sequence of overloads. If they love him for saving light, Sealor hissed quietly, then they will hate him when it destroys them. He stepped back into the darkness, smiling coldly as the machines began to hum with a faint, dangerous pulse. The sun of Virelia rose with a strange calm that morning. The glowing towers of the palace stood still, and the silver leaves on the trees shimmered quietly, as if the world was holding its breath. Thomas woke in his small chamber beside the engineering hall. He had spent many nights working on the energy cores that powered the city, but his mind was no longer only on machines. Every morning, he thought of the queen, of her gentle smile, her graceful voice, and the way she touched the air as if feeling its shape. And every morning Nara came running into his room with her cheerful laugh, bringing fruit that shone like crystals. But today her smile was not the same. She looked nervous, her small hands holding tight to her little glowing scarf. Thomas, she whispered, looking around to make sure no one was near. You must not go to the core room today. Thomas frowned. Why, Nara? The queen asked me to finish the main converter today. Without it, the palace will lose light. Nara bit her lip. Her glow dimmed slightly like a candle flickering in the wind. I heard them talking last night. The nobles. Lord Sealor said you are dangerous. He said the queen only likes you because she cannot see your face. He said... She stopped, afraid to continue. Thomas crouched down and looked at her kindly. He said what, Nara? He said you will bring darkness to our world, she whispered, tears forming in her bright eyes. Thomas smiled softly. Then he does not know what darkness really means. But thank you for telling me. You are very brave. He stood up and looked through the round window toward the palace tower. Somewhere up there, Queen Velen waited for him. He had promised her the energy systems would be stable again before the next Radiance night. He could not break his word, yet something about Nara's warning made him uneasy. Lord Sealor, meanwhile, stood in the lower chambers, staring at a glowing console. His tall frame shimmered with faint blue light, his eyes sharp and cold. Around him were two other nobles, silent and nervous. The human thinks he can win the queen's heart, Sealor said bitterly. He forgets that he is just a wanderer from a dull world. Our queen belongs to light, not to him. One of the nobles hesitated. But my lord, he repaired half the city's systems. Without him, the engines— Sealor slammed his hand on the console, making it flicker. Enough! He has blinded her with his words. We will open her eyes to the truth. He pointed to the large crystal reactor before him. Tomas will be working here today. I have already changed the flow path of the energy lines. When he activates the core, it will overload. The explosion will destroy the chamber. The queen will believe he betrayed her. The others gasped. But that will destroy the palace too. Sealor's glow darkened. A little destruction for the sake of purity is a fair trade. Thomas entered the main core chamber in the afternoon. The room glowed with white light, filled with humming energy lines running across the walls like shining veins. He began checking the control panels, unaware of the silent danger hiding behind the hum. As he worked, his mind drifted to the queen again. She had grown close to him in ways he never expected. She had learned to recognize his footsteps, his voice, even the way he breathed. When she smiled, he felt as if his whole world became brighter. Still, he remembered what she once told him. I do not see beauty with my eyes, Tomas. I feel it through kindness. He wondered if such kindness could survive the hate of those around her. Nara, unable to sit still, decided to follow Thomas secretly. She knew the path to the core room from her many visits before. Her little feet made no sound as she slipped through the bright corridors. But when she reached the lower level, she saw something strange. Lord Sealor stood near the outer controls with a data crystal in his hand. He was entering secret codes. Nara hid behind a pillar, her heart racing. She didn't understand everything about machines, but she could feel the danger in the air. The hum of the reactor had changed. It was louder, sharper. She waited until Sealor left, then ran as fast as she could toward the chamber. Thomas. Stop, she cried as she entered. Thomas turned quickly. Nara, what are you doing here? It's not safe. It's a trap, she shouted. Sealor did something to the machine. He wants it to explode. Thomas froze for a moment, then rushed to the console. His eyes widened as he saw the readings. The power levels were rising too fast by the stars. He muttered. She's right. He began typing rapidly, trying to reverse the overload. Sparks flew from the side panels. In the royal chamber above, Queen Valen felt a tremor through the floor. She stood suddenly, her senses sharp. Something is wrong, she whispered. An advisor ran in, panic in his voice. My queen, the energy core is unstable. We must evacuate. But the queen raised her hand. No, Thomas is down there. I must go. My queen, it's too dangerous. I will not leave him. She moved forward, her steps guided by memory and sound. Guards tried to stop her, but she brushed them aside with surprising strength. Below, Thomas fought to shut down the core. The bright energy orb in the center pulsed faster, its glow turning from white to violent red. Nara, go, he shouted. Find the queen. Tell her to get to safety. But Nara shook her head. I won't leave you. Before he could argue, Queen Valen's voice echoed through the chamber. Thomas! He looked up in shock. My queen, you shouldn't be here. I followed your voice, she said, walking carefully through the trembling floor. Tell me what to do. There's no time, Thomas yelled. The energy core will blow in minutes. Then we must act now, she said calmly. He stared at her, amazed by her courage. Even without sight, she stood tall, her hand steady. Together, they moved to the main panel. Thomas guided her hands over the glowing controls, explaining each step in simple words. She listened carefully, trusting him completely. The ground shook again. Crystals cracked. Light spilled across the room like liquid fire. Sealor appeared at the doorway, his face pale with fear. No, stop it. You'll destroy us all. Thomas turned toward him. You already tried to do that. Before Sealor could escape, a burst of light from the reactor knocked him off his feet. The ceiling began to collapse. Thomas threw himself over the queen, shielding her from the falling debris. The last thing he heard was Nara's cry before everything went white. When Thomas opened his eyes, everything was quiet. The air smelled of smoke and warm stone. He blinked several times, his vision blurry. The reactor chamber was in ruins. broken crystals, fallen beams, and faint glowing dust floating in the air. Then he felt a gentle hand on his face. "Tomas," whispered the Queen's soft voice. "Are you alive?" He turned his head. She was beside him, her white eyes closed, but her face peaceful. Nara knelt near them, tears glowing on her cheeks. "You saved her," Nara said quietly. "You saved all of us." Tomas looked around. The explosion had stopped before it reached the palace. Somehow the system had shut down just in time. How? He asked weakly. "It was your guidance," said the Queen. "You told me where to touch, what to feel. Together we stopped the darkness." She smiled faintly. "I may not see the light with my eyes, Thomas, but I can feel it now. It's warm. It's you." Later, when the people gathered outside the broken chamber, they saw their Queen standing tall beside the human. The light of the setting sun reflected on them both. The nobles bowed their heads in silence, even those who once hated him. Lord Sailor was carried away in shame, his glow dim and cold. Nara stood proudly between Thomas and her mother. Her small voice broke the silence. "I told you," she said, smiling sweetly. "He may look strange, but his heart shines brighter than all of us." The Queen reached down and took her daughter's hand, then Thomas's. "Indeed," she said softly. Today, light and darkness worked as one. And in that quiet moment, the broken palace began to glow again. Not from the machines, but from the hearts of those who had learned what true light really meant. The morning light spilled across Virelia, reflecting off the silver leaves and glowing towers like a million tiny stars scattered across the land. Tomas awoke slowly in his chamber, feeling the warmth of soft light flowing through the room. The palace had been repaired, its energy system stable, but the events of the previous day weighed heavily on his mind. He rose and looked toward the sky. The sun's light shimmered across the city, soft and welcoming. He knew the palace would never be the same, not just because of the damage and repairs, but because of the way the hearts of its people had changed. A soft knock at the door broke his thoughts. "Tomas, are you awake?" It was Nara, her glow bright with energy and mischief, though her small face carried the seriousness of yesterday's events. "Yes, Nara, I am awake," Thomas replied. She entered the room carrying a small tray of fruit and glowing water. "You must eat," she said. "Mother says even heroes need breakfast." Tomas smiled. "I think heroes are the ones who listen to their queen." Nara grinned. "Then you are lucky because she listens to you." Thomas chuckled softly. "I am lucky in more ways than one." After breakfast, he followed Nara to the main gardens where Queen Valen was waiting. The queen's white robe shimmered softly in the morning light, and though her eyes were still blind, her posture radiated strength. "Thomas," she said warmly, "I am grateful for all you have done. You have saved this palace, our people, and even me. I feel a light in my heart now that I have never felt before." Thomas bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, it is not me who brings light. It is your people, your trust and your courage that allows me to help. I only guide it." Valen reached out her hand gently. Thomas placed his hand in hers. Her touch was warm, steady, and comforting. "I cannot see you," she whispered softly, "but I feel your light. It is strong and true." Nara clapped her hands and giggled. "See, Mother? I told you. His heart shines brighter than everyone's." Velen smiled faintly. "Yes, Nara, he is not only brave but kind. His kindness has touched many hearts, including mine." Thomas felt a warmth in his chest. He had never expected such words from a queen, especially one who could not see him. But somehow, her blind eyes allowed her to perceive what truly mattered, what shone from the inside. The people of Virelia gathered in the main plaza later that day for a ceremony to celebrate the restored light of the palace. The towers pulsed with gentle energy, humming in harmony with the hearts of those below. Thomas stood beside Queen Velen with Nara glowing happily at their side. The crowd hushed as the queen spoke. "Today we celebrate not only the return of light to our world, but also the courage and selflessness of one who came from far beyond our stars. Thomas of Earth has shown us that true light is not only skin deep. It comes from heart, mind, and action." The crowd bowed their heads, their glowing forms softening in respect. Even the nobles who had once doubted him now looked at Thomas with admiration. Sailor, standing at the edge of the gathering, felt shame for the first time. He had tried to destroy the human, yet it was Thomas's courage and kindness that saved everyone. His own heart, once filled with jealousy, felt heavy and cold. Later, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the glowing city, Thomas walked with the queen in the palace gardens. The flowers hummed softly, petals glimmering in rhythm with the wind. "You have been through much," Velan said gently. "Yet your heart remains steady. You do not seek reward nor praise. This is why I trust you." Tomas looked at her and smiled. "Trust is earned, your majesty, but your faith makes it easy to give." The queen paused and took his hand, her fingers tracing the lines of his palm. "I cannot see your face," she whispered, "but your warmth is clear. I feel the goodness in you, and that is what matters." He felt a lump in his throat. "Your majesty, I never imagined I would find such acceptance on another world. Or a home." Valen's voice softened. "Then let us make this place your home. You are welcome among us, Thomas. Not for your skin nor your eyes, but for your heart." Nara, who had been following closely, jumped onto Thomas's legs. "See, Mother knows," she said proudly. "She can't see how ugly you are, but she sees everything inside." Thomas laughed gently and picked her up. "I am lucky, little one, to have such truth spoken so sweetly." That evening the city celebrated again, not with fear or tension, but with joy. The restored energy systems lit the towers brighter than ever. Lights danced across the sky, and music filled the streets as the Virelians sang songs of gratitude and hope. Thomas stood near the queen, feeling the warmth of the city hum through the ground beneath his feet. He looked at her, the blind queen who could feel more than most could see, and felt a deep respect and admiration. "You have changed my world," Velan said quietly. "You have shown me that light comes in many forms. Not only the glow of our bodies, but the glow of the heart. You have reminded me of what truly matters." Thomas bowed his head slightly. "And you have reminded me that even when you cannot see, you can feel truth. I have learned more from you than I could teach in 100 worlds." Nara twirled happily around them. "The stars must be smiling," she said. "They brought him to us." Velan laughed softly. Her blind eyes turned toward the shimmering towers. "Yes, little one, and they are right to smile." Over the next days, Thomas worked with the people of Virelia to teach them new ways to maintain their energy systems. They learned quickly, and soon the city no longer depended solely on a few engineers. The Queen's people now carried knowledge, and Thomas became not only a teacher, but a friend and guide. Yet even in the midst of work, his bond with the Queen grew. He would walk with her in the gardens, describe the colors of the sky, and talk about the songs of his home planet. And she, in turn, taught him to feel the light, to sense the world not only with eyes, but with touch, sound, and heart. One quiet evening, as they sat by a fountain of floating crystals, Nara asked Thomas, "Will you stay forever?" He looked at the Queen, then back at Nara. "I will stay as long as I am needed. And perhaps, as long as I am welcome." Velan reached out and took his hand. "You are always welcome, Thomas. Not because you are like us, but because you are yourself. That is enough." Thomas felt a warmth flow through him that had nothing to do with light or technology. It was trust, respect, and something deeper, belonging. The city celebrated one final night under the twin moons of Virelia. Thomas, the Queen, and Nara stood together on the balcony of the palace. The towers hummed gently, casting soft waves of light across the streets. People of all ages looked up and smiled. They had learned the truth Thomas had shown them, that light comes from heart and action, not only from glow or beauty. Nara leaned against Thomas's arm, her small voice filled with wonder. "He saved everything," she whispered. "Even you, Mother." Velan laughed softly, her voice like warm wind. "Yes, child. And in doing so, he has shown me a new kind of light, one I can feel even without seeing." Tomas looked at her, his heart full. "I only followed what I could feel too, Your Majesty. You guided me as much as I guided you." She reached out and gently pressed his hand to her chest. "And now we shine together. Our world, our hearts, everything feels brighter because of this bond." For a long moment, the three of them stood silently, watching the city of light. The towers pulsed in harmony with their hearts. The fountains danced with glowing water, and the stars above mirrored the beauty of their world. Thomas realized that he had not only found acceptance on Virelia, he had found a place where his heart belonged. A queen who could feel the goodness in him, and a little girl who had spoken the truth before anyone else could see it. Nara giggled. "I told you. She can't see how ugly you are, but she knows how bright you shine. Thomas laughed softly, lifting her onto his shoulders. And you, little one, are the best messenger anyone could hope for. Valen reached out, placing a hand on Thomas's shoulder. Then let this be our promise. We will care for our world together. Light and Heart will